Welcome to FYI, the 4-Year Innovation Podcast. This show offers an intellectual discussion on technologically enabled disruption, because investing in innovation starts with understanding it. To learn more, visit arc-invest.com.
ARC Invest is a registered investment advisor focused on investing in disruptive innovation. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. It does not constitute, either explicitly or implicitly, any provision of services or products by ARC. All statements made regarding companies or securities are strictly beliefs and points of view held by ARC or podcast guests, and are not endorsements or recommendations by ARC to buy, sell, or hold any security. Clients of ARC Investment Management may maintain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast.
From ARC Invest, this is FYI, the 4-Year Innovation Podcast. I'm Brett Winton. We've got a great show for you today. We have our fearless founder, Cathie Wood. We have Charlie Roberts, multiple co-founder of unicorns and chief investment strategist for our private assets. And we have Bryan Johnson. Welcome, Bryan. Bryan is going to live forever. He founded Blueprint. He also founded Braintree and sold it to Venmo. Bryan, why do you want to live forever? And when did it occur to you that it was a good thing to do?
It's such a funny question. It's like, why do I want to live? It's funny because I think it shines a spotlight on this idea that we do live in a world where everyone assumes that you will die. And therefore, you basically budget out your life and you make your life plans according to your stage of life, but you assume it's coming to an end. And this is the first moment in the history of our species where that may no longer be true. And so I know that creates a lot of consternation for a lot of people, because one of the most intense things people deal with is what to do with time. Like you wake up and you find yourself conscious, and it's like, what do you do with yourself? And so I understand. So basically, I'm doing this because I think we are at a pivotal moment as a species. We are evolving into something new. And we are the first generation who won't die.
Well, was there like a moment where you were like, oh, now I'm going to try to prolong my life indefinitely? Was there some catalyst? Was it kind of like, getting money out of the sale of Braintree? Was that like, okay, well, now what else do I have to spend money on? I should spend money on indefinitely prolonging my life? Or was there something else that kind of spurred you? Or was it a fundamental, I think this is possible now, therefore I'm going to do it?
It was, So when I was 21, I felt motivated. I wanted to do something that would be useful to the human race. I had read a lot of biographies. I was familiar with history. I loved reading about people who in their time and place were able to do something that impacted future generations, potentially for hundreds of years. And so I wanted to do something, but the problem was I wasn't good at anything, nor did I have any good ideas. And I was from a small rural community. So like, what do you do when you don't have money or connections, or you're not good, or you're not like a standout in anything? So I said, you know what, I'll just become an entrepreneur. I'll hustle. I'll make a whole bunch of money by age 30. And then with that money, I'll do something useful. And fortunately, it worked out. So I sold Braintree Venmo. I made a few $100 million. I sold it for just under $1 billion. I made a few $100 million. And then at that moment, it was like, okay, we just achieved the 21-year-old imaginative dream, but I was also burnt to a crisp. 14 years of entrepreneurship. I had 3 babies. I had just gotten divorced. I'd left my born into religion. I was just kind of scrambled in life. And off a decade of depression. And so it was this question, what do you do with life? Like, what do you do with time? And so I basically took a couple of years and I did 2 things. One is I organized my friends and we had dinners, and I would get like 10 of them together and I would say, all right, here's a thought experiment for you. We are living in the year 2050 and we are amazed at how remarkable existence is. Like it exceeds our imagination on every aspect. What did we do in 2016 to make that world possible? And then I would just listen. And people would like talk about the things that they were working on, or they heard about in the zeitgeist. And by dinner 3, I was like, wait a second, I see a pattern. Everybody is saying the same things. And that's what happens when in any given moment, we all kind of exchange ideas. We all kind of see similar things and similar patterns, which becomes echo chamber. So I then gave myself a challenge. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to take all the ideas I heard. I'm going to put them inside of a box. My job is to do something outside that box. I can't do anything anybody's talking about. And so that was the goal. That was the constraint. And then I did a second thing where I did this thought experiment where I imagined myself in the year 2500. So I imagine myself like reading the biographies of people who existed in the early 21st century. And there they are capturing existence. And there was one frame that really got me. I thought, there they are talking amongst themselves. And they say, we are so grateful to Homo sapiens that lived in the 21st century, that they did blank and blank that allowed intelligent existence to thrive in this part of the galaxy. And then my job was to figure out what blank and blank was. Because, over time, history compresses. Like we look back to the 3rd century, we say 4 things happened in the 3rd century. Like really, a whole bunch of things happened in the 3rd century, but time just compresses it to the essence. Our century, as rich as it is, and as many things that are happening, will be compressed. And so I think the answer is, they say, that's when Homo sapiens figured out when they gave birth to superintelligence, and that's when they figured out they would no longer die. Those 2 things define our century.
And so instead of buying a bunch of GPUs, you instead decided to live forever. It seems like buying a bunch of GPUs could have been useful too, though.
For sure. I mean, so the idea was that we have not had a discussion about life and death for about 2,000 years.
Mm-hmm. That's right? Where I was going to go. Yeah.
It's the first time in 2,000 years where we are legitimately discussing life and death. And so it is this monumental moment. So really, the observation was, we need to birth a new ideology. It's not, science is a part of it, but there needs to be a new thing, a new philosophy, ideology, religion, culture, community, whatever you want to call it. There needs to be something that is the defining epicenter of our existence. And that's what I wanted. That's what I started out to build. It's like, I started doing it in a very practical way through the terms people understand, through the language of sleep and exercise and measuring biomarkers. That was the origin.
Just listening to you, and not to bring everything to ARC, but it strikes me when we founded ARC. I remember someone not in our business asked me, why are you doing that? Why are you starting ARC? There are thousands of funds out there. And I tried to explain to him why I was starting ARC. And he has a spiritual bias, and very tuned in that way. And he said, "Oh, so you mean this is all about the new creation?" And I thought about that, because I also have my spiritual side, and I thought about that, and I said, "That's right. That is right. You know what? Now this is in our business's terms, but one of the reasons I founded ARC was the traditional financial world I thought had lost the plot, and was investing by looking backwards, investing in benchmarks. Benchmarks being their guide, and ARC's philosophy is our research is our screen for investing, and our research is all about the future." So it's very interesting the way you're framing this. And I remember listening to Peter Diamandis. He's I think you and he are friends, if I'm not mistaken, or you're certainly focused on longevity, both of you. And Peter apparently went to the Vatican, and he talked about this concept of not dying and made kind of a joke about it, but they weren't laughing. And so he didn't get it. And I said to him, "Okay, well, you're dealing with a very interesting topic. You were at the Vatican, for goodness sakes." So this is a touchy subject, but I do believe all of the inventions that human beings have been responsible for are part of the new creation. This is our sense of purpose. This is why we were put here. So very interesting, Bryan.
So to turn it into a question, is not dying simply an article of faith? As in, do you approach this like, hey, this should be possible because humanity deserves it? And then you're trying to put together kind of like the pieces of the puzzle to figure out how to measure and demonstrate it and hoping to essentially punch through the wall? Or is there some kernel or have you seen evidence so far? It's like, oh, yes, this is possible.
And one last question to tag on to that. You mentioned something about religion in your youth, if I'm not mistaken. And so I think you said, I didn't hear it very well. I think you said that you basically gave it up or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was born into a deeply religious community and formally left that faith in my late 30s, or my late 20s, early 30s. And so I guess the topic I think is worth introspection is we have a grand question right now as a species of what do we value? And right now, our actions demonstrate that we value power, status, and wealth above all endpoints. We are willing to trade life, willing to trade our existence for the accumulation of power, wealth, and status. And that's the case because we all know that death is inevitable. And so when death is inevitable, you're going to YOLO your way to those endpoints. And what this transition means, or what it raises, is it raises the question if existence itself is the highest virtue. That the only thing profitable is existence. Anything that weakens existence or calls existence into question is not profitable. And that's the whole discussion I'm trying to have is immortality, not for the sake of individual immortality, for the sake of selfish pursuit. It is a being a warrior and caretaker of existence, that we are defenders of the flame of consciousness. And so the thing that I think will be the most significant discovery in the 21st century is not going to be AGI. It won't be solving aging. It will be discovering how precious our existence is and how we are willing and eager to do anything to preserve our collective existence, to be, again, the warriors and caretakers of it in this part of the galaxy.
Is it on us to make sure that that's within individuals rather than the way that's always been done through a cycle of rebirth and things? Or, one pushback that I've heard from people when I've talked about certainly increasing health span is, won't we all be bored? Or, obviously this stuff without making it mundane. I think one of the answers I give, and we think about this a lot at ARC as well, is the power and the excitement of convergence. And wouldn't it be amazing to have 5 or 10 professional careers and you could do 10 PhDs, right? Not everyone's probably going to do that, but wouldn't that be amazing? And wouldn't the convergences you would then see with that level of knowledge, potentially then, with a Neuralink or something in one's brain, then that even helps further. But yeah, how have you thought about that journey, about what one then does as you become that kind of that Sherpa and that, carrying the torch for civilization and existence? How does actual day-to-day life change? How do you think about you in 500?
I think what's going to surface inevitably is a rights issue where we establish there's human rights. There's a right to vote. We have basic rights. What we haven't discussed is a right to exist. If the technology exists for me to extend my life and for you to extend your life, does one have the right to exist for as long as they choose? And that's where I think is coming is I don't think that this is a rich versus poor argument. If that's a secondary consideration, I think it's a basic fundamental human question of what are our rights? Do I have the right to vote? Do I have the right to influence my government? Do I have the right to exist? And if you say that's outlandish, that is so far into the future, I think you're underestimating the speed at which AI is going to change this conversation, even in 10 years from now. And if you try to measure that, if you look throughout history and you measure when a technological disruption happens or when a political disruption happens, it causes holes in society. It creates problems that society does not have answers for. And then an ideology or philosophy or religion needs to emerge and patch those holes and say, here's how we can make sense of this. Like, here's how we can smooth this out so things are okay, so that people are treated in an equitable manner, so that society is functioning, in a orderly fashion. And so if you say, look at the amount of change that's happening right now in society with AI, we're building up ideological debt. And right now, when you survey the world and you say, what ideology in the world is going to, in political, economic, social, moral, ethic, whatever your source is, what ideology is actually robust enough to patch the holes created by AI and that will be created by AI? And my hypothesis is none. There's not a single ideological framework that is even close to patching the holes. And so I wrote an Immortalism manifesto on the spring equinox with an attempt of articulating what the new ideology is that patches the hole the AI is creating. And these components are, existence is the highest virtue. That which fortifies existence is profitable. That which removes it is not profitable, etc. But I think it's a tsunami of change coming, and we have not properly sized it up on what will be necessary to actually stabilize society in a new equilibrium.
I agree with that, and I am more pragmatic about it, call it, as in kind of maybe I can't, even as a futurist, can't cast myself far enough forward. But the way, one, I think there is a distinction between rich and poor, and one way you could interpret longevity and kind of the potential in the market is, once you have accrued enough resources that you can be at the top of the social competition pyramid with people, so you're no longer just like trying to position yourself with a better yacht and stuff, then, the ultimate scarcity is time. And so then you dump your incremental resources into trying to live forever. Assuming that it's possible to kind of like molecularly figure out how to extend life, then you have this mechanism by which capital flows into that sector. It's basically like, once in an age of abundance, people are going to spend all their resources trying to live forever. And so then if the technological breakthrough exists, then we'll get there. And I think you can interpret some of the actions of the AI labs that recognize the set of political risks that they are facing here as acknowledging that actually this is a useful use, an actual appreciated use of the technology in health specifically, both in health and developing new cures and in providing people with tools that are in their life very, very important and helpful within a health services ecosystem that's not actually that helpful.
Just thinking about our listener base here, I'm thinking, a lot of people are, again, with AI, as you say, Bryan, they're scared. And I'm trying, because out of technology can come lots of benefits. I mean, transformational, curing disease being one of them, which is already starting to happen. So one of the things, I have two comments about what you've said. I think living a very long life, or living forever, if that is where this is going, I think those who will achieve that will need a sense of purpose. Don't you think? A sense of purpose. And the second thing I would say is, in this AI controversy, is this going to throw everyone out of work? You can flip it around and you could say, we're looking at the potential for the greatest entrepreneurial explosion in history, where people actually can start their own businesses, with AI's help. And most businesses fail, but, fail fast, move on. And, I actually have a lot more hope about technologies. Consider the source we invested in it. But I do see this sense of doom. And I think I'm trying to encourage young people, if they can't find a job now, start your own business with AI. That means as you continue to interview, you'll be a much more interesting employee if you choose to go into a corporation, because you've started a business and because you are so proficient at AI. So, I think there's huge opportunity here too.
For people who are scared of AI, I would say to them, there's no legitimate reason to either be optimistic or pessimistic. And that is because the future of our existence is computationally irreducible. It is an unknown state. You cannot say anything intelligent about the future. Now, you can say in classical science, you can say, I know where Jupiter is going to be in orbit 100 years from now. You can do the math and you know exactly where it's going to be. That is like through classical science, you can make predictions of the future. And before, like if you were a farmer in the 1400s, you would know your child would be a farmer in 1450 and their child would be a farmer in 1500. But now we don't even know what's going to happen a year from now, let alone 5 or 10 or 15. And so the starting point here is humans try to soothe their own anxiety by trying to imagine they can say things about the future. And this is the moment in time where we Homo sapiens need to confess we have absolutely nothing intelligent to say about the future because it's computationally irreducible. It is impossible to say. And so that's starting point number 2 is in this case, when you can't say anything about the future at all that's intelligent, the only thing you know, literally, is you don't want to die right now. Outside of that, that's it. You have nothing to say. And so if you were to take this conversation and map it back to Homo erectus a million years ago and say, Homo erectus, you're in a situation, imagine you're going to evolve the equivalent of 1 million years in a month. So everything you understand now is going to be, changed in a month. What are you going to be doing? And Homo erectus would say, well, you're going to forage over here, you're going to fight over here, you're going to it would take its own models of the world and map it. That's what we do. And so Homo erectus would not imagine that you're going to discover microscopic objects or invisible waves in the air or magic boxes in your hand that travel at the speed of light. We are Homo erectus in this moment. We are going to evolve at that same kind of speed over some duration of time. So for us to imagine that we're not Homo erectus in this moment is absurd. We are trying to take our ancient models and trying to superimpose it upon a world where we just don't even understand what's coming. And so this is why I'm really neutral about the situation. We don't know. All I know is as a species, the thing we lock in on is we don't want to die right now, which means we don't want to kill each other. We don't want to kill the planet. We don't want to kill ourselves. We don't want to cause harm to existence. We just want to hold on for dear life and hopefully we can make it to the other side. Now with that, it's if there's other cool things to do, amazing. But yes, we have a need for meaning. Yes, we need to find meaning. But I think we're getting ahead of ourselves of thinking that somehow the world is going to be the same when we have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, you make an interesting point, but I know many people who think that AGI or ASI becomes so good at making predictions that essentially the world becomes like an efficient market, right? And everything is predictable. But I think you make a really good point that it's maybe a bit more like the arms race that occurs with powerful AI in, say, cybersecurity, right? Where AI may make predictions better, but it also makes the number of possible futures massively blow up in computational, combinatorial space. So actually, maybe it makes, at best, flatline predictability, or maybe even less predictable, to your point. And at least we're in a steeper part of the curve, which is pretty interesting. Just to switch gears a little bit, as you think about, well, it'd be great to double click more on how you think about you're obviously a very scientific mind, you're a business mind, and obviously a spiritual mind, and just any additional thoughts on how you think about reconciling those and the science of spirituality or vice versa would be interesting. And then I was going to move on to also then, well, maybe we'll come back to that, but also just first day advice for anyone wanting to get into looking after themselves better and onto a longevity glide path who does not have $2 million a year to spend on it.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you say what are the 10 commandments of religion? We know that. What are the 10 commandments of capitalism? We know that. What are the 10 commandments of social status? We know that. We have playbooks on what to do in life. And what I'm saying right now is there's a new 10 commandments that are dropping. And when you give birth to superintelligence, your only enemy is entropy. Entropy is the final boss. Entropy gets the stars. Entropy gets all things. The only enemy we have is not each other. It's not nation states. It is entropy. So this is not just about bodily trying to get your body to live and be healthy. It's about trying to solve planetary sustainability. It's about trying to solve existential threats, asteroids, and trying to solve like not nuking ourselves. So when I talk about existence, I mean, the full-on project of the human race is we say we are going to secure our existence against all threats. Aging, planetary collapse, anything exogenous that may hurt our planet, anything. That is a full-scale, multi-thousand-year endeavor to figure out how do you actually secure existence. It's an endless stream of work. So when you say, like, what am I going to do? Like, we have more to do than we've ever had in our entire existence if we're going to actually try to secure our own existence. And it's a humanitarian project. It's everybody's involved. Everybody can contribute. And then in terms of like, so how do you make this actionable? I mean, it's kind of like the problem with like climate change. Like you hear like this terrible thing and it's like, what, do I recycle my Amazon boxes? But you actually, in this thing with existence, you can actually do a lot of things. You can actually be the philosophy. So for example, that's what I've been trying to do with my project is I've tried to say, I am a collection of 70 trillion cells, Bryan Johnson is. And every day my cells die a little bit. And they die and they have an expiration date roughly around 79 years in California. And so it's a pretty predictable clock of decay. Like every single day, it's a little less robust. And so we basically trying to say scientifically, can you make the aging process slow down? And can you increase the repair process? Because aging is just simply a function of the breakdown is more than repair. So how do you slow breakdown and boost repair? And then you can start with really basic things. Like what I tell everybody is health is overwhelming. Like if you say I'm going to want to be healthy, you say I'm going to eat a healthy meal, but then you think, are the seed oils good for me or bad for me? And you think, should I drink this or that drink? And it just gets overwhelming. So I try to simplify it and say, the best thing anybody can do is by focusing on their resting heart rate before bed. That is the one marker in their life to pay attention to. And then the whole game becomes, how do you lower the heart rate? Now, the reason why this matters is the lower your heart rate, the better you sleep. The better you sleep, the more willpower you have and the better mood you have. Sleep is the number one longevity drug in the entire world. There's nothing more powerful than sleep. And then I'll walk you through in a minute, like the 5 things you can do to lower it. But those are the anchor solutions that everybody can do, and they're free. So there's no money required. And they're also like the power laws of longevity.
Just to interject for a second before you go into those 5, it's funny, as I've said this to a few people, and it's strange to me that their eyes light up, but I think some people haven't thought of this, but I try to think of it as an evolutionary thing, right? And just ground it all in, why did we end up here? But when people cut sleep, right, and it feels like the ultimate kind of false economy, I always come back to, if there were any way for a mammal like a human to have done without sleep, given the evolutionary cost of being eaten by a lion while asleep, there is zero doubt that we would have evolved to not need it. And the fact that we still so consistently need 5 to 8 hours is so telling about that it's absolutely required to do all of the things, and both neurochemistry and thoughts and all the other great things. So it'd be great to hear more.
So these work because if I can see someone's heart rate on their wearable device, I will see their soul. I will see their relationship with stress and food and work and scrolling. It just reveals all things. And so, for example, the first thing is, if your bedtime is 10 p.m. every night, you want to have your final meal at least 4 hours before bed. So finish eating around 6 p.m. And that gives your body time to digest the food. And your body needs that space to complete its process. And then it has time and space to then lower your body temperature before bed and express melatonin. So now you're ready. If you eat adjacent to bed, it raises your core body temperature, it suppresses melatonin, it raises your heart rate. Then when you go to sleep, the body's doing 2 things, digesting food and trying to sleep. And then it wrecks your sleep. So by pushing your food earlier in the day, it gives your body space to do that digestion, so you're going to free it out. Now, I did a few hundred, probably more like 1,000 experiments on when to eat, what to eat, etc. I found my optimal time is to finish eating around noon each day. I go to bed at 8:30, so I have 8.5 hours of digestion. If I do that, my heart rate's going to be around 41, 42, 43. If it's there, I'm going to have a perfect night's sleep. I'll fall asleep within 2 minutes. I'll have, I'll get through in a minute, like what a good night's sleep is. So second thing is...
Wait. Can I just ask a question on sleep? Deep versus REM versus core. Any observations there?
Yep. So your body, so if you go to bed at 10 p.m., the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to drop into deep sleep. It's always that first big tranche. The key thing about this is your body is a clock. Because if your bedtime is 10 p.m. and you've got a work project or a social outing and you get to bed at 1 a.m. and you think, that's okay, I'm going to sleep until 9 to make up for it. It doesn't work that way. The body has a clock. And so at 10, you start your deep cycle and then you come back up. And then within like the first 60 to 90 minutes or so, you come up and you get your first REM cycle. So deep is where you do like deep brain cleaning. REM kind of comes up and does like memory consolidation, emotional cleansing. But your body goes through these cycles each night in a clock-like fashion. And so that's why it's so important to be on time and be consistent every day, because your body wants to run the same processes. So I think of it like this. At 10 p.m., there's a trash collector outside waiting for you to go to sleep. If you're asleep at 10 p.m., the trash collector rolls through your body and picks up your trash. If you're not asleep or your sleep is disrupted, the trash collector stays outside and your trash stays out on the curb. It's not picked up. So the body cleans itself through these systematic, rhythmic processes. And that's why you want to pick a bedtime, be consistent with your bedtime as much as you can to let the body clock run. So the ideal night of sleep is roughly 2 hours of deep, 2 hours of REM, awake less than 30 minutes per night, and then asleep within like roughly 5 or so minutes. That's the sleep architecture of like an early 20-year-old or like late teens. That's ideal. And as you age, it becomes increasingly harder to get good sleep. You wake up more often. You can't get back to sleep more often. You sleep more lightly. You can't get these big windows of restorative sleep. That's especially true for women. So that's why these sleep habits are so important. They are the foundational building blocks for all of health to master sleep. But you can't master sleep until you master the pre-sleep routines, which is what we're talking about here.
Yeah. And so the first pre-sleep routine sounds like you basically like starve yourself to death. So by the time you get to bed, you're like, oh. Is that my interpretation correct?
I mean, so some people do complain about feeling hungry, and like the first thing is like, it's okay. You're not going to starve to death. Like if you feel a little bit hungry, it's okay. If you need to start with 2 hours before bed and then go to 2.5 and then 3, like work your way up. But and some people will say, like, I can't sleep if I'm a little hungry. Like that's okay. Like have a little snack. But just what you want to do is you want to measure your heart rate. And so you can either use a wearable to measure your heart rate, or you can just put your fingers on the side of your neck and check your pulse. But that's your North Star. You'll see if your heart rate is up, your sleep quality is down. If your heart rate's down, your sleep quality is up.
What's step 2?
Yeah.
Okay, so screens off 30 to 60 minutes before bed. So being on your phone or on your computer is not a soothing experience. Like you're not doing that to wind down. You're not going to...
But I'm monitoring the situation, Bryan.
I know, exactly. I know this. Yeah, I know this. There's nothing you're doing on your phone. You're getting blasted with blue light. And whether you're texting or working or scrolling, it's arousing your nervous system. So screens need to be off 30 to 60 minutes before bed. And so in that time frame, you can do a number of things. You can go for a walk, talk to a friend, hang out with family. Reading a book is by far the best thing. Breathwork, meditation, a hobby, like literally anything, but not be on your phone. And you'll see that when you do that, it just helps you because your nervous system needs 30 to 60 minutes to wind down. You can't just be on the phone and be like, now I'm going to bed. The body needs space to do it. So that's torture for most people. If you take away the phone, it's like, I don't think there's anything in existence I can do at this moment, right? Like, I don't know.
It's clear your heart rate out.
It's like kind of a modern day comedy. It's like a tragedy. Like you take someone's phone away and it's like, they don't know to do with existence.
What about actively increasing your vagal tone by sort of doing vagal meditation or a vagal stimulator or something like that, which should push your blood heart rate down and blood pressure down, right?
Exactly. So I've tried all those devices. It's all good practices. Something very simple. It's just a very simple breath work. 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out. And when your exhale exceeds your inhale by 2, it calms you down by activating the nervous system. And even if you want to add a hum, when you come out of the 6 minutes, it does some vagal activation. So yeah, just something very simple like that can give some really soothing vibes to the body. Again, lower the heart rate.
What's step 3?
Third, yeah.
Be mindful of light. So blue light is very damaging to sleep. And so 2 things. 1, you can have screens off. 2, you can have blue light blocking glasses on. And so you want to be blue light blocking from roughly 280 nanometers to around 510 nanometers thereabouts. So find like a good pair of blue light blocking glasses. In my house, we come up with the sun and we go down with the sun. So we just don't use any lights in my house. If we have any lights on, it's a red light. It's a lamp with a red bulb in there with a low flicker light, or we have an amber light. But we just don't do any blue lights ever. And I've done so many experiments with blue light, it reliably crashes my sleep. So just be very mindful of light.
And it's actually a big part of why you get jet lag, right? Is actually the differences in blue spectrum light when you land, like if you land in California from Europe or something like that.
Exactly.
It's in the optic nerve.
I mean, so the thing is, like, the airlines are built to kill you, right? So when you take an international flight, you step on the plane, the first thing they offer you is alcohol. It's going to wreck your sleep. Then they give you a big meal. It's going to wreck your sleep. They sit you in front of a screen that's blasting with blue light. They have in the cabin, they pulse blue light, right? And so like they have like 4 things that destroy your sleep. And so the best thing, if you're taking an international flight, the best thing to do is go there fasting. Don't drink the alcohol. Don't eat that meal. Have blue light blocking glasses on, and then go to sleep as soon as you can when the flight takes off. Otherwise, everything in that cabin is just there to destroy your sleep.
You missed the announcement that happens right when you do finally fall asleep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
One of the times recently, last time I landed in London, I think it did exactly that, but it actually made me laugh because it was about the most British thing I've ever heard. It was on a British Airways flight with a pilot with a sort of cut glass British accent, received pronunciation, apologizing for the weather, which was something he could not control, and he was talking about the weather. It could not be more British in like a 30-second thing. You worked me up. Yeah. At least I laughed.
Yeah.
So we're up to number 4.
Yeah. What's number 4?
Number 4 is caffeine. So caffeine has a 6-hour half-life. So a cup of coffee at 4 p.m. leaves a half a cup of coffee in your body at 10. So if you're going to consume caffeine or other stimulants, like modafinil has a 17-hour half-life. So just be mindful of stimulants, because if you take them, or even ADHD meds, others, like they will affect your sleep. So just be mindful. I actually put out a list of like the things that increase heart rate. It's like alcohol, stress, meds, caffeine, etc. So be mindful of stimulants. And then number 5 is dealing with anxiety or like stimulation. And so at the end of the day, we're all tired and we're replaying the day. Like, what did we do well? What did we mess up on? Who are we mad at? Like all the things ticking through our minds. And that's unresolved conflict. And if you go to bed, you're now trying to resolve those things in your mind. And if you get lucky, you finally fall asleep, but then you wake back up, in 2 or 3 hours, and then you're laying wide awake as those things ruminate and they kick back again and again, and you then can't fall asleep, and you wake up in the morning, you're like, I haven't even gone to sleep at all. And so the best thing to do is to try to resolve the internal conflict before you go to bed. So I do this practice where I have Sleep Bryan in charge of my body at 7:30 p.m. He shows up and all the Bryans line up and they can all get ready with their concern. And so in line always is the ambitious Bryan. The ambitious Bryan is always number 1. And he shows up and he's like, I have a banger new idea on this thing we can build. It's amazing. And Sleep Bryan says, ambitious Bryan, we love you. You're doing a great job in life. Thank you. Also, we're in sleep mode. We're going to write down your idea. And then tomorrow, we're going to get to it. And ambitious Bryan will say, but we got to do it right now. We have to flush this out. And sleep Bryan says, like, got you. We totally got you. A good night's sleep is going to be good for us. So he goes away. Then the next Bryan shows up and it's anxious Bryan. He's going to say, today, you were on the podcast and you said that thing that's embarrassing, right? You need to go back and make sure they didn't include it. And so it's like, cool, got it. We're going to write this thing down. Tomorrow, we'll shoot them a note.
Wait, can I interrupt you? What did you say that was embarrassing that we need to cut?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'll say something.
Okay, yeah, come up with something.
Well, sometimes what happens is you don't think about something like that until the nighttime when you're trying to relax a little. That's when these things surface. I often find. Yeah.
And so, but you know this from experience is it's like if it's not resolved, it always comes back. And then once it gets in a loop, you can't stop it. Like you can't be like, hold tight. And so I find that the evidence that this works is if my heart rate is low, it means I'm cool. If I'm not reconciled, it will show in my heart rate. My nervous system will be aroused and my heart rate will reveal that I have not reconciled. It will show my stress in its heartbeats. And that's why I say if I see someone's heart rate, I know their soul. I know what's on their mind. I know how they deal with food. I know what their nighttime practices are. Your heartbeat reveals all. And so that's what you're trying to do. That's why this is so useful is it's a single marker that captures your entire health. Because if your heart rate's low, like you're doing pretty well, like you're calm and relaxed, you can wind down, you can actually get really good sleep, which is going to boost your mood, help all the cleansing processes happen. So this is kind of get to the core of being human. And what this does is it says we have a world, a culture that again is willing to do anything for power, wealth, and status, even kill ourselves. Therefore, we glorify the person that sleeps 4 hours a night or that is beneath their desk or like the brags that they don't, whatever, they have a cup of coffee and they can get by in 3 hours of sleep. We idolize people in this debaucherous behavior, but we know it's not scientifically accurate, right? Like the version I always use for engineers is nobody wants a code base of shitty code. You want a code base of beautiful code. When you don't sleep, you are shitty code, right? But it's not, the people don't connect it. They don't understand they are legitimately shitty code. They can't operate at the highest level when they're sleep deprived, when the body's not cleansed out. And so it's just like basic science. Our society needs to fix the culture. We've just gone astray a little bit, but this is like true principles of science and biology. You just can't overcome with the force of will.
I agree. Sleep is important. Sleeping better does lead to living a probably longer and healthier life. Almost certainly does. But if somebody gets perfect sleep, they're still going to live up to the, into their low hundreds, like max, and then die. Is there a way? Your entire kind of approach here is to try to unlock ways that you can kind of not die. Is there, what evidence have you, or do you, and you are very evidence-based, as in you're doing lots of experimentation, all in of Bryan, to figure out how to maximize or reduce and reverse the rate of cellular aging. Do you think that there is a scalable, breakthrough somewhere that you see, or is it kind of like a process of experimentation and we'll figure it out? How do you think about the actual kind of, or is it just you want to be in a holding pattern until kind of therapeutically or in kind of like AI figures out better ways to kind of extend and reverse aging for people?
Yeah. First is there is no therapy that can address aging right now. They're coming. The point I think that is this conversation is sleep is valuable not only for good health, but for good judgment. And the thing we need as a species above all right now is good judgment, right? We are giving birth to superintelligence. And the question is, what do you do with superintelligence? Do you get better at war? Do you get better at killing each other? Do you get better at, what do you do with it? And if you kind of blow this out on a bigger scale, we are in an epic contest of intelligent life. As far as we know, we are the only intelligent life that we can see in our part of the galaxy. It's an unreal situation. And yet we don't value it with the preciousness that it is. And so sleep gives you a teeny bit of an edge to say, you know what? Maybe our existence is the highest value thing we would focus our attention on. And so again, this moment is really a discussion of values. What do we care about as a civilization? Right now, we say power, wealth, and status at any cost. And like, there's like gradients here and there, but I'm saying like this is the fundamental question of our time. And sleep is a kill shot to judgment.
Just to think about the actual technologies, you touched on one or two, but what you actually do in terms of interventions, including NMN or NR and through to some of the technologies that you do think as maybe enabled and helped by AI, but as we go forward, the kinds of things that would take us past that sort of 120 hard limit. What do you think about things like epigenetic reprogramming as well and senolysis? Any of these?
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to understand your current sort of hot take on the spectrum of things you can do today and the things that are coming down the pipe.
Yeah. So I, over the last 5 years, I've collected 1.5 billion data points on my body. It's the most dynamic data set ever collected on a human. And we've assembled a dashboard that basically measures my whole system health. And so we look at this through the lens of entropy. So we say, as a 48-year-old, my body should look like this. And then we say, but based upon all that we've done, all the therapies we've done, the sleep, exercise, diet, sauna, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, like all the things we do, senescent cell reduction, my body has about 26 to 30% more order than an average 48-year-old. My system, right, there's less entropy. And so what we're tracking is, as the technologies get better, that number is going to go up. And when that number gets to 100%, 1 year of time is going to pass, and I'm going to be the same age biologically. And we predict that year is 2039, when I will travel through a year of time. My body will probably age by like 40 to 50%. Except we'll be able to slow our speed of aging down. Then certain therapies like reprogramming, cell therapies, gene therapies will then reverse the aging damage that has happened and take me back to where I started the year. And so we now just have an entropy dashboard that tracks my body in real time. How good are the therapies? And as these therapies roll out, there may be a good therapy for the kidney and a good therapy for the brain, or the therapy for metabolic, for mitochondria. We're tracking each of these organ systems. We see on dashboard in real time what is happening to my body from a speed of aging perspective and rejuvenation. And so we're now building this for other people through Blueprint. They too can build their digital twin and do the same process as me. And it gives you a really high motivation. If you measure yourself, you too have this real-time dashboard. How fast or how slow are you aging, and how fast are you rebuilding that repair? And then you just lead you. It's like the premise we have is cars now drive themselves. Software now writes itself. Health is next. So because when a person says yes to health, it is so overwhelming and so much to do and so logistically challenging. We are stepping in and saying, we've got you. If you say yes, we'll tell you step by step what to do. And you start with these basic things like have a bedtime, have a wind-down routine. Then we progressively get into more and more sophisticated therapies, but then they too can have this dashboard of like seeing in real time what happens to their body. So we're really trying to break it down to a systematic, algorithmic thing, like much like you'd approach a software project with your body.
I actually like the way you think about it with entropy. It sounds like entropy is your global enemy, and then you think about the different levels and layers of the onion, right? Because at some level you're talking also about fighting sort of civilizational and almost spiritual, where that meets science entropy. But then, and to make it also very concrete for the audience, I think some part of the entropy, I think that you're talking about also ties in with this whole idea of the information theory of aging and the way that you this drift, both epigenetic drift, but also genomic drift, at least somatically, as cells divide, and then they just noise creeps in, and with every further division, you've got shortening of telomeres, you've got have you seen anything super compelling to sort of support that information theory of aging that I think a few people like David Sinclair has published on a little bit, and I think conceptually it makes a ton of sense. I think it seems like it's very much at the nascent end of proving it out, but it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I'd say you're dead on. You explained it really well.
You haven't mentioned exercise. When I think of entropy, I think, okay, we got to fight this. And I know you've suggested, sleep is one of the most important ways, but how important is exercise in all of this? I think it's very important.
Yeah, at the very, very top. The reason why I start with sleep is because if you don't get sleep, you wake up in the morning and the difficulty bar of exercising is too big to overcome. Like, you don't feel good enough. You don't have enough energy. You don't have enough willpower. And so unless sleep is locked in, exercise never happens. But of course, exercise is absolutely essential. But like, this is the thing is when someone's like, I'm going to lose 10 pounds, or I'm going to like get into an exercise protocol, and they do it for a day, and then they miss day 2 and day 3, it's very hard to come back because they stayed up the night before, they ate a late dinner, or they drank some alcohol or whatever. So this is why I approach it this way, is like, just lock in the basic routines for bedtime and sleep. And once you do that, you wake up in the morning, you feel great, you want to exercise. And then it becomes a really easy step. And then once you exercise, then you want to eat well. And that's why this works. Like, I don't start with like, go get an NMN drip or go get a shot of B12, or like, those don't work, right? You have to like go with the hardest thing, which is your bedtime. And like going to bed on time and like turn your screens off. If you don't, so like this is the thing in health and wellness, the most powerful things are free. And it's all about behavioral. And once you lock those in, like, yes, then you can scaffold up and do more sophisticated things, like make sure I have enough collagen peptides and extra virgin olive oil, I'm eating vegetables and legumes, and I have, I'm doing sauna the right way and hyperbaric oxygen, like all those things add on. But you have to like get somebody locked in on a routine, then you get sustained benefits, and they just feel so much better. But yeah, exercise, I do an hour a day myself. I do cardio, strength, mobility, and flexibility. And so it's like in my religious practice, my spiritual practice, I find it to be therapeutic in the gym. It's my favorite moment of the entire day. I never miss it.
A little bit of a follow-on question, and it has to do with, your spiritual life. A lot of scientists have, been atheists through their lives as they're trying to prove this, that, or the other. And at the end of their lives, maybe it is because it is the end of their lives, they have this epiphany that, I couldn't figure the universe out. There must be a God, something like that. It's a simplified version of it. How do you think about that? And do you think about it?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, don't die and immortalism are the most friendly ideologies ever. And every other ideology is kind of like, I know the truth. I want you to join me. And if you don't, I'm going to kill you. That's right. That's kind of been the pitch throughout humanity's history. Like, every peaceful religion came through violence. And don't die is the only one that says, like, if you believe in an afterlife, great. Right? If you believe in reincarnation, superb. If you, whatever you believe is cool. What we're agreeing to is neither you nor I want to die right now. We are unified. We are together. It is the only ideology that overcomes tribalism, ethnicity, religion. It just says, like, you can believe what you want to believe. That is wonderful. The one thing all intelligent life agrees, not just humans, biology, like all of the biology of planet Earth, nothing wants to die right now. And that's the thing I'm trying to lock in on, is like, if you, again, it's a conversation of value. What do we value? And that's what I'm trying to get at the core of this.
Isn't there not a counter view, but that works and sounds amazing in a world of abundance and positivity. But like, let's say in a world of scarcity, right? And I for what it's worth, I don't think that will happen, because I think the technology needed to actually deliver exceptionally long lifespan does bring abundance, right? So everyone comes up Maslow's hierarchies together. But let's just say that there was some bound of scarcity, whether it's geographic, energy, water, food, whatever it was. Does that not run counter to that worldview? As in, it comes back into the more scarcity-minded religions where, by everyone living, that's more of a Malthusian, there's more of an issue, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is the question you raised, Charlie, is basically in this conversation, what principle is the lighthouse and what principle is the ship? And I'm saying that the right to exist is the lighthouse. It's the immovable object, and everything's going to have to navigate around it. Now, does it force hard questions? Yes. Does it force uncomfortable situations? Yes. Is right to exist the right move for the species? Yes. It follows human rights. It follows the right to vote. It follows women's right. It follows all the paths. If you just simply map out what is the next big thing for the species, this is my bet. It's the right to exist is the next big discussion for us.
One, like I said, I think as people have more resources, yes, the individual will try to live for as long as they can and forever if possible. And I do, so far the way we have lived forever is through kind of like passing down our genetic code, right? And actually from a humanity-wide perspective, isn't it easier just to rely on that old mechanism of rejuvenation of like building the next set of people who will then have like their vital period from, call it age of 20 to age of 50 or something. And then they go off into senescence. And as in if it's a humanity scale kind of expansion we're trying to retain here, what do we care if I live forever or you live forever? I'll live on through my kids,
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is humans inherently seek immortality. Over 2/3 of humanity believe in an afterlife. People in capitalism are seeking immortality through accomplishment. They want their names on buildings. They want their names in the history books. They want stories told about them. Right? So immortality is sought by all humans. And humans do their very best to seek immortality through all the means they have. Children, accomplishment, right? All the enduring things, family names. And so this is not a new concept. This is something humans have always strived for.
And I guess it's imperfect if you're I'm only passing down half of my genetic material to one of my kids. I want my full, cloned copy or me to live forever.
Yeah.
So just to bring it back to like from at least how we model it in markets perspective and why actually from an investor perspective, it's interesting. If you take the existing US population and you say, I'm going to pay $100,000 per life year, which is roughly what the medical system claims to pay now for quality adjusted life year. And I just get up to the 120-year cap. I don't extend people's life beyond that, but I raise their health to full health throughout their life and then raise everybody all the way to that 120 years. That's worth, what is it, $1.3 quadrillion?
1.2 quadrillion.
Yeah, 1.2 So there is clearly like you say, there's a budget consideration there, but in an age of abundance, you have that money. But it really does become if this is possible, then there are extraordinarily large markets that have to be unlocked and capital that would flow into it to make it possible because of what we ostensibly pay right now for a year of life.
Yeah. And Bryan, we are publishing this report delineating how we got to that 1.2 quadrillion. So we'll send you a copy.
That's cool. Let's read it.
Yeah. Probably in the next few weeks.
But he has plenty of time because he's going to live forever, so it's fine.
Well, but we all know this. I'm going to die from the most ironic thing possible, and it's going to be humorous, and the internet is going to love it. It's kind of inevitable. So when it does happen, you guys can replay this clip and say, he knew it was coming. He told us to have a good time. See, that I'm good. Like, I'm reconciled with this. I understand that's my role in the universe, and that your irony hunts me.
Sense of purpose.
Yeah, irony hunts me. That's good. Maybe that's the embarrassing thing that you admitted that you'll revisit later at night and then have to call back and be like, no, I don't want to admit that irony is my mortal enemy.
Yeah, no, for sure. Every time I'm doing the most, mundane thing, I think this is it.
Done.
This this is for sure it.
Watch out for the bathtub. I think that's a
Yes. Get lots of sleep and avoid the bathtub.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Bryan, it's so good to have you on. Thank you for sharing some of your philosophy and also some practical tips for at least living a healthier, longer life. And we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
ARC believes that the information presented is accurate and was obtained from sources that ARC believes to be reliable. However, ARC does not guarantee the accuracy or completeness of any information, and such information may be subject to change without notice from ARC. Historical results are not indications of future results. Certain of the statements contained in this podcast may be statements of future expectations and other forward-looking statements that are based on ARC's current views and assumptions, and involve known and unknown risks and uncertainties that could cause actual results, performance, or events to differ materially from those expressed or implied in such statements.